Hello and welcome back to the Rock River Valley Traction Company. In this video, I'm going to take you along as I construct a bridge. This bridge is going to be about 60 feet long, and I'll show you the steps that I take to construct bridges out here. When it comes to building a bridge, the first thing I always consider is what materials do I have available. Many of the bridges out here are built with 6x6s. Usually they're doubled up, or in some cases tripled up to support the load. It depends on the span of the bridge. Once you know what kind of materials you have available to use, then you have to come up with a design. For the design of the bridges out here, they're all just simple deck bridges. I like to keep it simple because simple is inexpensive. Simple is easy to maintain, and simple gets the job done. For this particular bridge, I'm going to use cut-off utility poles to support the bridge, and then I will be using some 3-inch by 10-inch by 14-foot timbers. These timbers were acquired from an old loading dock that was being taken down. And I'll show you these timbers, which are on the new flat car, by the way. So these timbers, I found a couple date nails in them. They said 35, so they're from 1935. They still have a lot of creosote in them. They're still in good shape. So I've got a whole bunch of these, and I'm going to use them for this bridge. And then here are some of the support poles. These were old utility poles that were cut off. They still seem to have quite a bit of life left in them. One thing that I've been doing for the last probably about 5 years is coating the ends of the poles that go in the ground with roofing tar. Now, some of you purists can get down in the comments and jump all over me about this. But it seems logical to coat the timbers with something where they are coming out of the ground. If you've ever dug up rotten posts, you'll notice that they always rot out right near the ground level. So what I do is I take roofing tar and I coat them at the point where they will be coming out of the ground. And I make sure I have about maybe 1 to 2 feet below the ground, and maybe about 6 inches to a foot where they come up out of the ground, all coated. I have done some checks on some of the ones that I put in, the first ones that I put in about 5 years ago, and they show no signs of getting waterlogged. So hey, maybe it works. In any case, the goal is to preserve these timbers for as long as possible. I don't want to have to go back and replace them, and they need to be sturdy, obviously, for safety reasons. These are probably about 8 to 10 inches in diameter, so they're pretty heavy-duty timbers. They should last a very long time. As for the route of our bridge, let's take a walk and check it out. I'm standing on a bridge right now. Coincidentally, this is the last one that I just put in. And now we need to continue this route to meet up with the other line, which is going to run through here. And you can see way down there in the distance the other track that used to go up the hill and is now severed, as it will be pulled over to connect with this line and go across the bridge that I was just standing on. So we'll walk down here. I've already got some holes dug in here. The spans are about 10 feet, I believe, is what I've got between the support piers. And these holes, I try to dig them down. You probably can't see down there, but I keep them about 3 feet, maybe 40 inches deep. That gives them good stability. And then here is our original track, which I'm going to be shifting over to the right so that it meets up nicely with the bridge. And here's where the track used to go. So that'll all be tore up and it'll be shifted over and go that way. So now that I have the holes all dug out, because I had already planned out the route a little bit before I decided to make this video, the next thing I'm going to do is put a string across from where I need to go to where I am originating at. And this will tell me the height that the poles need to be for the bridge supports. You can use a laser. Obviously there's a lot of different ways to do this. I'm cheap, I like things simple, so I use a piece of string. Alright, so now I've got the string in place. Now if you can see it here very faintly, come over here, and I've got a stake in the ground right here that it's tied off to, and the height of it is roughly the top of the rail where we're going to be at. And then it spans our ravine and is tied off on the other end where the rail is going to terminate. And then here you can see now we've got a reasonably straight line that we can use to put a tape measure up against to see how long the posts need to be in order to make the bridge deck the right height. The next step that I'm going to take is to put some of the posts into the ground that are the piers for the bridge. And just like that, all of the bridge piers are in. If only it was that easy. So when you put these in, I always want to make sure that you pack the dirt real well down around the base of them. For that I use 2x2, and I just go around the base and put a little dirt in and pack it down, and a little more dirt and pack it down. And then when I get all done, I stomp on it real well. I usually take a level, put here on the side, and then turn 90 degrees, put it on the other side, make sure they're reasonably level. They don't have to be perfect. If anything, they should be tipped in a little bit, give it a little more stability. Now you can see the string still strung across here. As you recall, this marks the top of the rail. I've gone through and measured from the string down onto these posts that are supporting the bridge, and then I put a nail in. See the nail? Got a nail right there. So basically I just measured from the string, got 16.5 inches there. That's the rail plus the tie plus the beam, and this is where our cross member is going to go. Now for the cross members, I've got some 4-inch C-channel here, and what I'm going to do is I just secure it on, I just put it up against the nail for the height, and then I'll put a level on it to know where to secure the other end at. So what I'll do to start out is I'll put just some 3/8 lag bolts in to hold these to the posts. I'll go ahead and put all of them up, and I've got them all laid out here. And then after those are secured to the posts, I'll put the beams on top of them, and then just double check that everything is level and the right height and all that. Once that is verified to be good and no adjustments need to be made, then I will drill through all the way and put some 1/2-inch bolts that'll more or less pinch these onto the beams. I've got half of these put up now, and just show you what I was talking about here, how I just put one end of it up to where I had the nail tacked as my height marker, and then I just put a level on there, make sure we're level, and then secure it at the other end. Now I'm gonna put some beams on here. It'll start to look like a bridge. Okay, so now we have the beams put up on the cross members, and what I usually do is grab a tie and throw it across each section and put the level on there. Make sure that we're all good. Check each one of them. If there's any adjustments that need to be made, I can go back and unscrew these cross members in and make the adjustment and put them back in without too much trouble. In this case, everything came out perfect the first time. So now I've got to go through and put the cross members up on the other side of the posts. They're just laying down on the ground right now. So I'll go through and attach those to the other side of the post here. So we have 2 of them on each set of posts. Get a look at it from the other side. Starting to look like something now. So once I get those cross members put on, I'm going to go through and lag these beams together here, just at this joint, and just put some lags in there to hold them together so they're more or less all one big continuous beam. I'm not going to secure them to these posts for right now. Reason being is you'll find that depending on how wet your location is and how soft the soil is and whatnot, over the course of a couple of years, these beams are gonna, or the posts are gonna settle a little bit. And what I do is, if they settle enough that the bridge begins to become unlevel, I can put shims right in here and raise the beam up so that the bridge is level again. And after a couple of years, they're usually set in place pretty solidly, and then I'll go through and I'll probably drive some bolts all the way through into here just to stabilize them a little more. So I think the next step is we're gonna, after we get these cross members up and lag these beams together, we'll put some ties on here and start adding some rail. I did get some rail brought around from the other bridge right here. So here's where we're coming from. And these pieces of rail, this is 20-pound rail, and these pieces were already kind of pre-curved from whatever previous application they came from. Heavier rail like this, you really can't bend all that well by hand. You really need a roller bender to do that. So fortunately I don't need that this time. I can tweak them to the radius that I need by hand. They're bent enough to begin with that it won't be too hard. Once you get one rail put in, then the other one, you know, you can just use your one rail to push and pull off of to bend the other one to get your gauge in. Makes it a lot easier. So yeah, let's finish this up and get some ties on here. All right, so we've gone through and added the secondary cross members. I've gone through and put a couple of lag bolts through to hold these beams together. And I've also put some ties on here. Look at that. And now we're working on getting the track brought around. So I've got ties put in that and working on getting it bent around. Won't be long and we'll have rail up onto the bridge. So that'll be the next step, is just continue putting rail down and working that way. Let's have a look at some of the progress that's been made here today. Here's our curve. And now we have rail most of the way across the bridge. It's coming along. Now you might ask why these ties are spaced so far apart. Well, I'm waiting for some 12-foot 4x4s so I can cut them in half, and I'll put the 6-footers under here, and that'll make a support for a walkway. So I got one, I had one used one here I threw in. So I'll put some 2x8 planks across here so there's a walkway on one side of the bridge. To show you, when you're doing curves like these, this little thing right here I picked up at Hazard Fraught Tools, and it's a chain binder, and I took the original hooks off of there and I put these big hooks on that can hook over the rail, and you can use it to pull the gauge in. It's really handy on curves. You can put a gauge block in, and then tighten this thing down and get the rail to conform to whatever you need it to. Pretty good looking curve there, I think. Came out okay. So yeah, we'll just keep on with the rail across the bridge. We're just about to the other side. As you just saw, the train has arrived with a shipment of lumber from the local lumber yard. So now we can continue on constructing this bridge. I was waiting for some extra long 4x4s so that I could make the longer ones to hold the walkway. So what I ended up getting was some 16-footers. Originally I was looking for 12s, but what they had were 16s. And befriend your local lumber salesman. A lot of times lumber yards, the higher quality lumber yards, will have some really good deals on ones that are kind of twisted. So if you look at these, they're not straight, and they deem them kind of secondhand because they don't want to sell them, you know, under their good name. So you can get a pretty steep discount on some of this stuff sometimes. That's what I'm always looking for, is a deal. So with these, they're 16-footers. So what I'll end up doing is picking the straightest part, making the 6-footer that will go for the walkway support, and then the remaining 10 feet of each one of these, I can get 3 normal size ties. I cut my ties to 40-inch length on this 2-foot gauge line, so I can get 3 of them out of a 10-footer. So even if they're warped, You know, at 40 inches you don't even notice it, and even if it is a little noticeable, you put it down under the track and it has no effect on anything. So yeah, we'll start cutting those up. Have a look down here. Since last time I did finish putting some rail down there on the last part of the bridge. So now we'll continue that, get the 6-footers made to fill in the gaps here between these ties, and yeah, we'll be pretty close to having something that we can at least push cars over. After that, we'll have to set a couple of poles and get some overhead strung before we can power up this thing. And now I have placed all of the 6-footers in here that are for the walkway support. I don't have the walkway planks yet, but we're ready for them, more or less. I've also gone through and cut off some of these posts were a little too high, going to interfere with the equipment, so I've cut them off. They're cut off at an angle so the water doesn't lay on top of them. I'll probably go back later and coat them with roofing tar just to seal them up. So now we've been working down at the other end, getting the track continued on to where it meets up with the original main. So we'll take a walk over there and look at that. Alright, so here we are on the other end of the bridge, and here's the original track that we're trying to meet up to. I've taken and pulled it over some from where it used to be so we can get it to line up. Took the chain binder, chained it to a tree there, pulled the track over. Worked pretty well. Got all this dug out. Get some ties put in there and put some rail down. Here's the original track that used to be here. You can see where it ran up the hill. Now these are just little isolated sections that have to be tore out. Yeah, here's a view of the bridge from the other end. We're getting closer. Getting closer. Here we are with the flat car brought down here. I had to bring some ties down for the new track. About got one rail all put in here. Working on welding everything up. Here's how I do the track joint bars. Just a piece of flat stock in there, C-clamp it, make sure the joint is good and level, and then I weld it. And the reason why I weld everything out here is because the rail is ground, so I need a good electrical connection all the way through. So all the joints are welded out here, well, except for the slip joints that I put in every so often for thermal expansion and contraction. So now I'll finish welding this up and then get the other rail put in, start securing everything to the ties, and then it's time to go through and put some ballast in here and tamp everything up. Alright, so we've completed putting the rail sections in down there at the end of the bridge. The lumber train came in last night and delivered some high quality 5/4 boards here that we're going to use for our walkway planks. Right now I've just set them in between the rail instead of out here where they belong, because I'm going to string the catenary wire across here, and then I can run the train up here and have power to run the screw gun and stuff. So I'll just walk down here and look at our new track. got everything welded in. Got some ballast put down in here where we needed it. Got a nice little curve here. I think it came out pretty well. So the next thing that we have to do is get the catenary strung across here. Now, if it'll show up here, but here's the wire going down the original right-of-way. Right here, I'm going to take all this down and pull it over. I've got a roll of it over here where it's bound up to the tree. Right here. We'll take that and pull it over, put it over the new track, and we'll have some power over there. Here we are getting the catenary put up now. I don't know if you can see it, kind of like right here. It goes out like that. I've got it tied up to a tree and a pole down there, and then it goes around the curve. Probably can't see it, but it goes over where that flat car's sitting. And right now we're working on getting the cross arms put up. I've actually got the train sitting on the bridge for the first time. So here we are, we're on the bridge, and here's my little gizmo that I use for hanging these cross arms. It's just an adjustable height. It just sits in the back of my gondola car, and I can adjust the height up and down. So I get the height set, and then I just lay the cross arm in it and slide it up to the pole. This one's ready to be slid up and screwed into the pole, and then the wire sits on top of that arm. You can kind of see the one that I just did up there. I cheated and used the tree for a pole. It's not really the right thing to do, but it was there and the spacing was right, so I did it. So yeah, well, it won't be long and we'll have full catenary up here. Managed to get all of the catenary put up. I even have the trolley frog put back in place. It's back in service. I actually ran short of wire, about 3 feet short. I don't know if you can see right there. I had to use a piece of 3/8 round stock to make up for the wire that I was short to meet back up with the frog, but it's all good now. Seems to run through there okay. Got some extra long hangers here to span the width of the bridge. And they've got guy wires on them. Maybe you can see if we get to the other side. Maybe not. There we go. This one shows up, so it ran some wire down to hold these so that they stay straight. And I've also finished the walkway. So this is all secured down now. Have a nice walkway. Bridge looks pretty good. I say it's time to take a ride. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed watching the progression of this bridge from start to finish. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All of your views are important to me. It helps me buy supplies out here. And as you can see, the supplies really help make things nice. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.